So, just over a week ago, I was looking for an excuse to expend some creative juices and make a video game. I went looking on itch.io for upcoming jams, and I saw one starting in just 2 days. The Game Dev TV Jam. So, I joined it. This is how that went. The first thing I knew is I wanted to include this kind of cool jump mechanic I'd thought up and prototyped a bit ago that lets you precision jump like a free runner. So I knew I wanted to make a platformer here, and I started building the movement. So I started improving on this continually. And around this time, I saw the news that the Bionicle Masks of Power fan game had been cease and desisted by LEGO. Well, for any sane person, this would be a signal to stay away. This gave me an idea, because I loved this franchise so much, to write my own legend, inspired by the series I loved as a kid, and to start with a little game, inspired by the game I loved as a kid, and the game I looked forward to, but that never came out, until recently. So I downloaded the fan-made rebuilt version of the 2001 cancelled game and gave it a play. And to be honest, it's janky and stuff, but I really liked a lot of the core concepts there, like the really tight and predictable platforming and the ledge pull-up mechanic. I like the camera angle and the super snappy movement. And it really feels right with the strafing and the backpedaling speeds being so different from the regular speed. And that actually helped control the action, even if it was a little jarring at first. And I was looking at it, and I was actually thinking that this would make melee combat quite controllable with the sort of strafing and backpedaling differences. So I added all that, and I added an energy ball ranged attack, reminiscent of the 2003 Bionicle game's ranged attack. Though we're going to use this for more than just combat. It arcs around in the air, but always converges on the aim point, and it can be charged up with the cost of multiple ammo, and it auto-targets things. Now that 2001 Bionicle game and its movement, strangely enough, reminded me of another game, with the movement being so different at different angles. This brought me down a path of looking at melee combat and first-person support. One of the things I didn't like about both Bionicle games is there's not really any melee combat, which makes sense, as there is a mandate from LEGO that the Toa don't really hit anything with their weapons physically. They carry swords and stuff, but only use them to channel their energy. And the 2001 game has a different animation that's sort of like a melee attack that plays when you use the same button as the beam, but have something in front of you, but it's basically just the beam attack internally. And the 2003 game just uses a slash animation for the ranged attack. So there's this game I made 4 years ago called Symbiosis, and it was a bit of a stinker. It's not super unfun, and I know some people enjoyed it, but I made a huge error in the design, because it has directional swings for the attacks like Dark Messiah, so you can sort of swing from the left or from the right, from the top, from the bottom, but it's based on flicking your mouse rather than your keyboard input. So you have to disorient yourself and lose your aim to hit anything. So I thought, let's also do some justice to that and redeem that failed design as a stepping stone to something greater. So as a prerequisite to melee combat, I added this character from Mixamo with a bunch of stock animations, and I brought back some similar mechanics, but using the movement keys. The difference between this and Dark Messiah, though, is rather than committing to a direction at the start of the charge attack, it reads the input at the time of releasing the button and changes up the preview in real time. So you could, in theory, bait an enemy into blocking one way and then switch up on them and hit them when they're open, for example. Light attacks are not directional, they're just basic swings. I want the combat to be very player-controlled, so I want them to not be super magnetized to the enemy, and the player can sort of strafe and run around freely while they swing. But we'll play with that to see what feels right once we add the enemies. Then it came time to add the HUD. I'm not going to lie, the current prototype HUD is sort of AI generated with a bunch of editing to separate the components apart and make it into a working game HUD. But I do want to hire an artist to do roughly the same style, just better and more consistent all around and in vectors. But this got the idea across fast and well. I added the health bar with a mask because I'm going to add mask powers, and a counter for the little resource that you can collect, and of course added the little resource. If you're using the range attack, above the counter there's this little panel and it'll show 5 gems. So these regenerate out of your collected pool and fuel your energy ball. Everything is going to be powered by the same resource, so you'll also expend your collected gems to top up on energy and health. And there will be some deep lore regarding these that I can't wait to reveal slowly to you guys. However, these devlogs will be mostly gameplay focused for now and avoiding spoilers. I'll make separate videos which may contain more spoilers. I also added this stance indicator so you can see your stance. In this game, our movement is stance-based, so rather than holding a modifier key like shift to sprint or control to crouch, you use your scroll wheel to go up and down between stances from a slow walk to a sprint. And then this energy meter, though the energy isn't used for anything yet, this will be used for both mask powers and the magic system, which I am excited to show off in a later video about its design. There is quite a bit to dive into there, and so it definitely needs its own dedicated piece of content. The crosshair was also added here, so if you're ranged in range mode and you're not sprinting, you'll get this crosshair that snaps to targets that you can auto-aim at. Around this point, my son got quite sick, and so he was sent out from daycare, and this had a cascading effect because I had to work while caring for him during the day, forcing me to do more of my work from my job at night while he fell asleep, causing the game to go untouched for a couple days. Now, typically this wouldn't be a project-killing scenario, but in a game jam, this was a fatal blow. Initially, I figured I'd just add like 2 enemies and some keycard doors and make a demo level, but the final weekend too ended up being disastrous for me in terms of free time, and I threw in the towel. On the jam, not the game. So after the jam ended, I picked up Unity and I wanted to address the stiff and outdated camera pulled straight from the 2001 Bionicle game. I want to take the same old school style and mechanics but improve the feel and not just copy it for the sake of it, so I landed on this system which has the tight strafing feel with a more modern pulled in over the shoulder view, but then pulls up to the original view while sprinting and allows the character to run towards the camera or wherever else instead of being locked to its direction. I also noticed the game does actually feel a bit better in first person. And that's kind of where I am now, I guess. I really wanted to get this devlog going, but there's still a lot more to do. So now here's my plans. I'm going to be adding some objective stuff like key doors and pickups next, basic NPC interactions and dialogues, some destructible objects with loot, and masks with powers. I'm also going to be designing the magic system, and I'd like to make a video and perhaps a stream if we can get enough interested people to discuss this design, as it is quite unconventional, and I'm quite excited to reveal it. But also, it's going to need some feedback and a lot of iteration to make it feel right, because it is quite unconventional. So yeah, that is all. This game is early days, and I don't know where it's going to go, but I really hope that we can bring this to be something really great. Yeah, thanks for watching.